Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm sorry it's been a while. I've been kind of under the weather yet again, and I don't know how much longer this is going to take to get better, but I'm back for now. And this is my third attempt at making this video, okay? I'm very frustrated. Okay, but I'm just gonna relax and try to go right on through, okay? Smooth sailing, right? Today's case is actually not about a murder. It's about a crime, yes, but nobody died so far, we hope. Anyway, this is the case of the Turpin children. Well, basically the Turpin family. Now, I don't know how many of you guys are, familiar with it or, if you've heard of this case. It was about 5 years ago that it like broke and was all over the news and everything. I don't remember when it happened in particular, finding out about it. I only actually learned about this case like 6 weeks ago, just during one of my true crime binges. I came across information about them and it just fascinated me. So I was like, let me, and then I fell down this giant rabbit hole. And I've kind of been there ever since, and I've wanted to discuss this. It's just absolutely horrific and very heartbreaking, as far as like uh, any kind of true crime story. This one is really gut wrenching because the Turpin family, it had two parents and 13 kids. 13 children. Now, you would think if somebody was going to go about having that many babies, that you would be like really fond of having kids. You have so many because you love it so much, right? Like that's what you would think. But I don't at all believe that that was the case with these guys. I don't know what went on in their brains, to be completely honest with you. So basically, an overview here. The case concerns the maltreatment of children and dependent adults. Now, David and Louise Turpin, they had the 13 kids between 2 years old and 29 years old. And on January 14th of 2018, the 17-year-old daughter Jordan escaped from the house with a old and disconnected cell phone. Apparently, the older siblings had been given phones at one point, but only because the mom and dad wanted to be able to get in touch with them. Like, it wasn't so the kids would have outside, world link. It was really just for their own benefit. They wanted to make sure that if they needed to talk to them, one of the kids was going to answer the phone. So there were only a couple of them that were given these phones, and over the years, they had ones that were replaced and old ones that were laying around. So Jordan took one of those disconnected cell phones and she snuck out of the house in the middle of the, well, I think it was probably about 4 or 5 a.m. because there is police body cam video from, when the cops got there, and there you can see behind Jordan that the sun is just starting to rise. Like, it's obviously daybreak in the video. So you figure what the sun comes up in January, like 5 or 6, closer to 6 in January. Now that I'm thinking about it, this is January that I'm in, and oh, I'm sorry, today it's actually February. But yeah, it's still pretty dark in the morning, so I think it was probably around 4 or 5 a.m. she jumped out of the window and she called 911. And when the police got there and they started, they encountered Jordan and they started talking to her, and she told them, we have my brothers and sisters and myself, we have abusing parents, abusing, like this poor little girl, and all of them actually, none of them had like a very detailed vocabulary. This is because only one of those 29, or I'm sorry, one of those 13 children had ever gone to school, and that was the oldest daughter. Her name was Jennifer. And Jennifer went to public school until the 3rd grade, at which point her mother pulled her out and homeschooled her. So they actually had their home registered as like a daycare center or something. Like it was Sandcastle Daycare, and it was all just a cover up so that the kids didn't have to go to school because the parents didn't want to have to they didn't want to have to buy them nice clothes or send them to school with a lunch. They pretty much just wanted to torture their children. I That's the only thing I can come up with, right? Because Jennifer was going to school and Jennifer was interacting with the outside world, but they took that away from her real quick. You know what I'm saying? Third grade, that was it. Um, so anyway, given the number of dependents that were involved and the degree of abuse, and the protracted nature occurring over the decades, the story garnered significant national and international news. Experts in family abuse considered it to be an extraordinary case for many reasons. Now, in February of 2019, so like about a year after they were arrested, they both pleaded guilty to 14 felony counts, including cruelty to a dependent adult, child cruelty, torture, and false imprisonment. False imprisonment, you guys, like that. And I'll get to that. It's really sick. So yeah, they were both sentenced to life in prison, and there is a possibility of parole, but not for 25 years. Now they're already, getting older. So you figure 25 years from the time they went to jail, they're going to be very, very old if they're ever paroled. Thank God. Way too old to have babies or hurt another child. Background on David Turpin, the father, was born October 17th, 1961, and he was a computer engineer by trade. He graduated from Virginia Tech and had worked at Lockheed Martin and Northrop Grumman at some point, so he made really good money. Now, his wife, her name is Louise Ann. Robinette was her maiden name. She's born May 24th, 1968. Now, they both come from Princeton, West Virginia. They got married in Parisburg, Virginia in 1985. And at that point, David was 23, Louise was only 16. Now, it's said that her father tried to stop them from, getting married or whatever. So I don't really know how they got to the point that she was only 16 and allowed to marry him. Don't you need parental consent? I don't know. I'm not sure how it works, especially not with a state like West Virginia that I know absolutely nothing about. Except for, I kind of know where it is. But that's basically, I've never been there. I don't know anybody from there. So, if any of you guys are from West Virginia, let me know. Is there, a minimum age you have to be to get married? I would think it's 18. And if you're under 18, you should probably need parental consent. But I like I said, I don't know. So, let me know if you have that answer. Anyway, so they were apparently Pentecostal Christians. Now, I'm air quoting that only because I don't know how you can call yourself a Christian and do the things these people were doing. Including swinging. Ew. Woo. All right, look, swinging, I have weird, kind of a weird feeling about that. I personally would never be able to do it. I could not imagine sharing my person with someone else, or let alone watching that happen. No. I can't, in my opinion, no. But yeah, it's been said that they were doing stuff like that, and, just generally, they were a little strange sexually. You would think. But oddly enough, sexual abuse is not something that really comes up in this case, which is good, except there is something in the plea deals that I'll get to that later. But what I'm saying is basically I don't believe that these were severely sexually assaulted children. I don't think it got to that point. But again, I'm not 100% sure. So anyway, the Pentecostal Christians, they said that their part of their beliefs was that they had to have as many children as possible because God told them to. All right, now that's all well and good too. God told you to have a lot of kids. Did he tell you to neglect them? Did he tell you not to feed them? Did he tell you to leave them alone by themselves to make like a Lord of the Flies situation? You know what I'm saying? Like I sure God told them to. Of course. But anyway, I digress. Let me get back to it. Um, they went ahead to have 10 daughters and 3 sons between 1998 and 2015. Now, they had lived in Fort Worth, Texas until 1999, at which point they moved to the city of Rio Vista, and that was, in the year 2007, they went ahead and moved 10 of their children into an isolated trailer on the back of the property. So David and Louise, they took the 2 youngest children and left the rest of them basically to fend for themselves. They would drop off like a grocery delivery 1 time per week, and it was never enough to last these kids. Like they would have to, well, the oldest child, Jennifer, she was kind of taking it upon herself to ration whatever food that they brought so that they would have something for every day. But Jordan has been quoted as saying that like they at sometimes were so hungry that they were eating ice cubes and like condiment package, like the little ketchups and mustards. Can you imagine having to eat that? I mean, I guess when you're starving, it doesn't really matter, but that's heartbreaking. Like, how do you leave your children in that kind of a situation? I just don't get it, you know? Like, it's just horrible. So anyway, like I said, this case is not about a murder, but it's pretty bad. So anyway, let's see. Jordan was 6 years old at the time, and she said that there was a lot of starving. And after the family left the Rio Vista property in 2010, the neighbors and people in the area went into those houses, and there was literally like feces all over the place, and dead cats, piles of garbage, bugs, yuck. Like they really, really trashed that place. And I want to say, like, that's not any fault of those children. Those children were never taught how to, like, properly keep your house clean, and they weren't taught that, like, you can get sick from eating bad food. They weren't, you know what I mean? Like, the common sense that you and I have, that we learned from our parents when we were growing up, these children did not have that. They had no street smarts, no outside world knowledge. They were just so alone. So, I mean, I'm glad that they had each other, at the very least. At least Jennifer took on, like, a motherly kind of bond with Jordan. Jordan is a lot younger than Jennifer, but Jordan, I think, she was the one that had, like, the guts, and she's super brave. So anyway, one of Louise's sisters had said later on that David and Louise refused to let the aunt, see the children, and another sister said that she'd been concerned about the children's weight, but Louise's aunt said the family pictures that were posted on Facebook have made her think that, you know, they were one big happy family. And, like, I'm going to show you photos here. As a matter of fact, let's show you a couple right now. The family was, Louise, she was putting on, you know, a lot of us make our lives seem like they're so much better than they really are on social media. And that's kind of the way that Louise was functioning here. She was getting these photos taken and, you know, at certain functions and whatnot, and making it seem like they were just one big happy family and she loved her kids and, you know, all that stuff. When in reality, it was completely the opposite. Mm. Sorry, you guys, coffee. I just can't help it. Also, they had a strange, the adults, Louise and David, they had a strange, fascination and love of Disney. Like, they had, their license plates were, like, DL forever, like Disneyland, and they actually did take those children, all of them, to Disneyland a few times, and, and also, I guess, Universal, because there's others, photos where they're all wearing those Dr. Seuss thing 1, thing 2, all the way up to thing 13, I guess, t-shirts. Oh yeah, I got pictures of that too. Yeah, so it was like a whole facade that they had made up. Like, I'm sure it was amazing for these kids to get out and be able to go to Disneyland, but very rarely did they do things like that. They had also taken them at some point to Vegas so that they could renew their vows because, they're so wonderful. But yeah, they forced the girls all wear the same dress, the boys all wear the same suit, and David and Louise got married by an Elvis impersonator on the, Vegas Strip, I guess. So they actually, on the night that Jordan escaped the house and made that 911 call, that was the day before the family was planning to leave again, to move away from California and go to Oklahoma. So Jordan's escape was really it was the last minute. You know what I mean? Like the last chance that they had to get out of there and try to fix it. So yeah. Now, about the escape. By 2018, the Turpin children had been planning the escape for more than 2 years. Now, on January 14th, 2018, 2 of the girls left the house through a window. The younger girl was 13, and I'm not sure her name, but she was so scared that she ended up going back. And the other one was Jordan, who was 17. Now, Jordan got some distance away from the house. I'm pretty sure she was, moving as fast as she could. And she took out that deactivated cell phone that one of her siblings had. And she called 911. In the 911 call, she told the dispatcher that she and her siblings were being abused by their parents and that the smell in the house was so bad sometimes that she could barely breathe. She also stated that 2 of her sisters and 1 of her brothers currently were chained up in the house. Now, that's insane. You know what I mean? And it was true. That was the way that David and Louise would discipline these kids. They misbehaved, and they would literally chain them to their beds and not let them move, not let them use the bathroom. They literally were forced to, just go on themselves. Horrific. Absolutely horrific. So, when the first police officer arrived, I'm so sorry. Excuse me. I have a tickle. Okay. So when the first police officer arrived, Jordan showed him photos on that phone of the conditions inside the house, and the police officer was, shocked, okay, because it was obvious that this little girl was not lying, I mean, at first, this cop's probably thinking, oh my god, this little girl's, insane, or, she ran away from home and she's making stuff up, because usually when a teenager runs away, that's usually, they're mad at their parents, and sometimes they make shit up to make it seem like there was a real reason for them to leave, but in this case, Jordan was 100%, truthful, and she was so afraid, there's body cam, and I highly, highly suggest if you guys ever get around to it, just to go on YouTube and watch the police body cam from him, the first officer, interacting with Jordan that morning. He asked her, are you on any medication? And Jordan actually said, what's medication? Poor little girl didn't even know the meaning of the word. That's what I mean about the, limited vocabulary. And how in the hell Louise was getting away with homeschooling them when they didn't even know the word medication, and there were other things too that she had to say. What does that mean? What does that mean? This poor little girl, it was like she was from another planet, um so the cops like medicine, like when you're sick. She said, oh yeah, okay, sometimes we take Robitussin if we have a cold, but that was the extent of her like knowledge of any of that stuff. So deputies of the Riverside County Sheriff's Department then raided the house, and they stated they were there for a welfare check. Louise and David answered the door. The Sheriff's Department said that Louise was perplexed as to why they were there. Inside, they encountered the house reeking of human poopy, decaying garbage, dead pets, and moldy food. With every surface in the house was completely covered in trash. And then later they found the other 12 children. One had still been shackled to the bed and had been there for weeks. Children were found with bruises on their arms, appearing frail and caked with dirt. The children were so malnourished that deputies actually thought they were all like little kids under the age of 18. When in fact, 7 of them at that point were over 18 years old and being like held prisoner for more or less. Like they weren't even aware that like, when you turn 18, you're an adult, and if you don't want to be there, you can bounce. You know what I mean? Like you can just go. These kids didn't know that. They were so brainwashed into believing that, like, they're supposed to stay with mom and dad, I guess, forever, I'm not really sure how 7 children turned 18 or older and stayed in that situation just because they didn't know they could leave, And let me also just mention quickly that David and Louise, they were such assholes to their kids that they had scared them so badly into thinking that if they did anything wrong, they would kill them. They genuinely thought that it would be okay and legal, and the parents would be allowed to straight up take their lives. Because, that whole saying where I brought you into this world, I could take you out of it. Well, they did that little speech to the extremes in that house. And these poor kids, like, it's horrible. So, yeah, they also did happen to find, which is really cool, a whole bunch of journals, because these kids over the years, they wrote down everything that they went through, and that was enormously helpful to the prosecution in the case, because here's your, timeline of how long they've been neglecting and harming these poor kids. So, let's get on to the crimes here. So for years, the parents imprisoned, beat, and strangled their children, allowing them only to eat 1 time a day, and they were only allowed to bathe 1 time a year. You guys, I can't imagine. I would literally probably die. Like, I would feel so disgusting in my own skin. Like, that's, this is so bad. Like, it reminds me of, like, a concentration camp. Like, you can't even shower. You can't use the bathroom, like, in the bathroom. You gotta just go. Like, they wouldn't let these children stand up. They were to be sitting down quietly all the time. And they had them sleeping at the daytime and awake at the nighttime, probably just to keep neighbors from seeing shadows, in the windows or whatnot, because all the blinds and curtains are always closed. The neighborhood, in fact, had no idea there were that many children there. I don't even think they knew there were any children there, to be honest. Like, they weren't allowed outside. They weren't allowed ever to do anything or go anywhere. So, yeah, like I said, the older children appeared much younger because of the malnourishment. And Jennifer was 29 at the time, and she only weighed 82 pounds. 82 pounds, you guys. That is so small and so messed up. She had literally starved her whole entire life. Like, these people, ugh. So, oh, and another thing about the 12-year-old child had the circumference of the 12-year-old's arms, like around here, was the same size as a 4-month-old baby. Yo. It's disgusting, despicable, and horrific. Like, honestly, this is the first true crime case that I'm discussing that doesn't have to do with a murder, but it is so upsetting regardless. You know, like, this one stayed with me. Like, there's a 2020 episode with, I think it's Diane Sawyer, and she's talking with Jordan and Jennifer. I highly recommend that if you guys ever have a chance to check out watching that. Like, it's really intense, and the two little girls, they explain everything probably way better than I could. You know, they lived it. So, yeah, they appeared to lack basic knowledge of the world, had a limited vocabulary, for example, being unfamiliar with the word medication, or, you know, who police were. They didn't really understand, you know? So, like I said, they were charged with 12 counts of torture, 12 counts of false imprisonment, 7 counts of abuse of a child under 14, and 6 counts of child abuse. And this part right here, David received an additional charge of a lewd act on a child under 14. So, you know, I said there was no sexual abuse. I don't understand what that's for. Like, who is he being lewd to? Because that's something that I'm not really sure about. And I only found out about that charge right here when I'm reading about it. And I'm just reading Wikipedia. I'm not like, you know, that's why I'm not quoting any, you know, if I was using a newspaper or, you know, some kind of article like that, I would have mentioned, you know, like, hey, this is where I got that. But I'm just reading this off of Wikipedia. Sorry, it's starting to get a little dark. I had to put my light on. Anyway, so, they were held in lieu of bail being posted, which media reported was set at $9 million for Louise, at $12 million for David. They were not getting out, which, you know, thank God. And David was also eventually charged with perjury in relation to affidavits that he filed with the California Department of Education over the years because of the whole homeschooling nonsense. They were never actually taught anything. He was just faking the paperwork so they wouldn't have to send them to school. You know, because if they had to send them to school, oh God, they'd actually have to, like, buy them clothing and have them take showers and make them, like, actual people. You know, like, it's so gross to me. I mean, did these people just think that, like, forever their kids were gonna live like that? And like, what about when they die? You know what I mean? Like, did they have an end plan for this? I mean, 29 years of it. It's highly disgusting. So, Louise's attorney requested that she be placed in a pretrial diversion program for mental health treatment because she was diagnosed as having a histrionic personality disorder. I guess that's what you call it. I don't know. I just call it evil. But, yeah. Let's see. So, the judge denied that request on the grounds that she probably posed a risk to the public. I don't know really about that. I don't really think not to the public, but to their kids, for sure. So on February 22nd, 2019, they both changed their not guilty pleas to guilty. Now, that they pleaded guilty to one count of torture, 3 counts of willful child cruelty, 4 counts of false imprisonment, and 6 counts of cruelty to an adult dependent. They were both sentenced to life in prison, and the possibility of parole is 25 years. So, they're going to be really, really old if they ever get out. All of the kids spent 2 months in the hospital. 2 months to, you know, get them to the point where they were able to digest food, put some weight on, you know, just basically be cared for that. It took, you know, 2 whole months. And after that, they were placed into foster homes. Doctors treated various issues, including heart damage due to lack of nutrients and cognitive impairments, as well as neuropathy. Now, in October of 2019, 5 of the youngest children were adopted by a family who, unfortunately, was also abusive. It's horrible. They went from the frying pan into the fire, basically. Allegations included being hit in the face with sandals, pulling their hair, hitting them with a belt, and striking their heads. They were forced to eat excessively and then forced to eat their own vomit when they couldn't keep it down. The foster father was arrested and charged with abusing multiple children in their care. You guys, why the hell do you sign up to be a foster family if this is what you're gonna do? And why would you take on 5 kids only to abuse the crap out of them? You know what I'm saying? Like, what the hell? It infuriates me. It really does. So, in early 2020, the Riverside County Deputy District Attorney reported that the children are finally living independently, working, going to school, and one of them at that point had graduated from college. Which, you know what? Thank God. Thank God there's somewhat of a happy ending here. Let's see. Sorry. An investigation from ABC News magazine, like I was saying before, 2020, they chronicled the case for a November 2021 special called Escape from a House of Horror. Now, it reported that some of the Turpin children are now neglected by Riverside County Social Services, some are homeless, and none may use the hundreds of thousands of dollars donated to them. The money was placed in a trust controlled by a court-appointed public guardian by the name of Vanessa Espinoza. Now, Joshua Turpin, one of the older children, stated that he wasn't even allowed to get access to the funds to buy himself a bicycle. And I think he only wanted it to, go to work or school. He wasn't just like, oh, I want a bicycle and give me money. No, he had a reason for it. And it was their money. People donated $600,000 to the Turpin kids, and they never saw a penny of it because the government sucks, basically. They took all that money, and this Vanessa lady, I think she's the wife of the dude that was abusing them. Come on now. Anyway, during an interview with Diane Sawyer for the 2020 special, Jordan said that she was released without warning from a foster home with no life skills, no plans for housing, no knowledge of how to get food or health care. According to the report, Riverside County had finally hired a private law firm to investigate allegations of abuse by social workers. I mean, come on! How horrible! How horrible! Anyway, so in July of 2022, the Turpin siblings filed lawsuits in California's Riverside County Superior Court against the foster care agency that placed them in that home, where they were allegedly subjected to further abuse and neglect. 2 nearly identical lawsuits have been filed, one representing the 2 older siblings and the other representing the younger 4 siblings. Riverside County Foster Family Network and ChildNet Youth and Family Services are also named as defendants in the lawsuit. Okay, so basically, you guys, that is the story. Now, if you ever get a chance to watch that 2020, I really recommend it. But I will tell you something, I cried so hard watching it. Just because, it's Jennifer and Jordan that are talking. And Jordan, like I said before, that little girl, she's gonna go somewhere in life. She's very, very smart. When she was finally out of that house, how she didn't know what medication was. She didn't know anything, and she just threw herself into learning. She chose to learn things. You know what I mean? She went and she graduated high school. She got her own place. She looks amazing. She's doing great. She likes to make TikToks. She's in love with Justin Bieber. I forgot to mention that. She had a a crush on Justin Bieber, and she would watch his videos on one of those old cell phones, and that's what gave her the idea, like, that there's something out there more than what they're living with. You know what I mean? Like, Justin Bieber gave her the courage to get out there and do that. I think that's so sweet. Now, I'm not a Bieber fan myself, but you know what? Like, that's an amazing little part of the story. It makes me so happy that he was there for her to, follow, and he gave her a reason to believe that she would be okay, And Jennifer is, on the other side of the couch there, and now, like I said, she was 29 years old and only weighed 82 pounds. Her story is, it's very, that she's the one that I was mostly crying for, because, like, like, they did let her go to public school up until third grade, but she got bullied constantly because, like, she was the smelly kid. You know what I mean? Like, her parents, they didn't bathe her. They just sent her to school, and obviously she probably smelled horrible. And, the other kids just picked on her relentlessly, and it was miserable for her. So when she finally didn't have to go anymore, at that point, it didn't seem like it was a bad thing. She was done. It was, like, horrific, her experience. But, it also really messed her up. Like, I'm pretty sure every one of those kids has some form of, like, major PTSD over everything. I mean, I don't know if that's true per se, but if you ask me, I think they're probably all suffering, with PTSD. But I'm so happy that they have each other. That is the the good thing about it being such a large family. It sucks that they had to be split up in foster care, and some of them were, like, really harmed, even more than they already had been. But the great part about it is that the older children were already adults and able to take care of the younger children once they all, understood the way the world works. They had to learn how to take public transportation. They had to learn how to fill out job applications. They had to learn about doctor's appointments and social services, and how to get, like, food stamps and Medicaid health insurance. Like, they had to be taught everything that you and I just know, because we learned it as kids. We grew up that way. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think about this case? Have y'all heard about it? Like, it's so upsetting to me. It really is, but it does give me hope, because, like I said, in the end, they're going to be okay. Thank God. And neither one of them, Jennifer or Jordan, has any desire to ever see or speak to their parents again, and I don't blame them. If it were me, I'd cut them off too. It must be really hard, though, because through it all, they were treated horribly, but at their core, these children still love their parents, and that's super sad. It reminds me a lot of, Diane Downs, the last case I did. She shot her kids and tried to kill them, but they still loved her, Um, so yeah, oh, and the one last thing I was gonna say about, like, Jordan and her educating herself, about the outside world by watching Justin Bieber. She also found that she had a Barbie doll that had a camera in it. Like, she's wearing a necklace, and the necklace is a camera. So Jordan used that, and she, like, did kind of like a video diary, and she would record herself singing. She made up little songs and stuff. She was so cute as a little kid, and she's grown to be gorgeous. Which, I'm going to show you some photos here, yeah, gorgeous, gorgeous girl. And Jennifer, too. Jennifer is a knockout, you know what I mean? Like, but you would never believe that I think she's like 31 at the time of the 2020 interview, and she looks maybe 17, like, none of the kids look their ages, because, like, being malnourished and everything, they didn't develop correctly, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, like, this is one that I really wanted to discuss, and like I said, it's nice to at one point talk about something that isn't a brutal murder, because my next case is. But anyway, yeah, I really want to know what you guys think about this. Let me know in the comments what you think. And as always, if you have any suggestions or you want to see me do any particular story, just please let me know. I'm going to once again put my PayPal and Cash App here. Not monetized. I don't know how long I'm going to be stuck in this little limbo land, but I'm trying to get as many subscribers as I can. So if you're still with me here, please subscribe. And thank you again so much. And I'm going to catch you guys in the next one. Bye.